Hi, I'm Michael Smith for Nevada Trails. Tonight I have a very special show. I have Mark Jensen of the Dangberg Historic Park.
The Dangberg Home Ranch Historic Park.
I knew I was going to say that right. And he is a park interpreter. And when I moved here, I guess about 6 years ago, the Dangberg Ranch, as far as history, has come up awful lot. And 2 years ago, I had the pleasure of being on the Eagles and Ag Tour, and one of the stop to look at the Eagles was at the Dangberg Ranch, and I believe it was still going through a restoration, and it was absolutely beautiful, mysterious, and worthy of coming back. And now that it's been open for, I guess, 2 years, of coming back and seeing. And I believe when this show airs, you'll be open for business for 2009.
Yes, we open April 22nd.
Excellent. And how does one become a park interpreter? I mean, it sounds like a fun job for someone like me.
Well, there are probably various routes to becoming a park interpreter. My personal route started with a study of American history, and then I spent several years working in archives and museum work. I was a museum curator for several years.
Wow.
And I was the archivist at the Salt Lake Olympic Committee, and I have a background in management of historic documents. So that's how I transferred into my connection with the home ranches, because I was hired as a cataloger when the Nevada State Parks first acquired the property.
So you're a very curious person.
Yes.
Actually, your background sounds exciting. I like everything you mentioned. Sounded a lot of fun.
It can be.
And I do a museum show also on the side, so I'm always meeting interesting people. And so, anyways, in this show, you're going to teach me about the Dangberg Ranch and some of the history about it, and why we should go see it.
Well, I hope so.
Yes. So the first picture is of the ranch itself, and what would you say, about 1910?
Yeah, this photograph is from our collection of at the ranch. We have a large collection of several hundred photographs and several thousands of artifacts. And this photo shows the ranch around 1910. About 50 years after it had been founded, H.F. Dangberg Senior founded the ranch in 1857. It started with a log cabin, and that log cabin is still room in that house.
Wow. So that's a long time ago.
Yeah, he was one of the first ranchers to settle in Carson Valley. Of course, the Carson Valley ranching community began just about 10 years before he was there. And he was a German immigrant, came to the United States in 1848, we believe, came to Nevada around 1853. We understand he tried his hand at gold mining in Gold Hill. Wasn't successful, or decided that wasn't for him, and then came to Carson Valley in 1856 and founded the home ranch in 1857.
Well, how did he acquire so much property, though? He seemed like he was a pretty big player right away.
Well, my answer to that is always the first part of that is hard work and shrewdness.
Of course, yeah.
He went out and he worked his land, he irrigated, he plowed, he planted crops, he purchased cattle and started to raise them. Once he was established, he also sponsored his siblings, two brothers and a half-brother, as well as numerous other people from the area of Germany where he grew up, to join him here in the United States. That was a common activity in that time. Once the original settler gets set up, he sends back home for the others. They come join him. They help him with his endeavors. They homestead, and that's what he was doing, was homesteading. And through that method, he was able to start acquiring land.
Well, how many cattle did he actually have? I don't have a clue on, or what did he raise for cattle or crops, or what was his expertise?
Well, when he first started farming, we understand that he would be raising wheat, and we're told that he was the first Nevadan to start using alfalfa. But he also grew vegetables, and then later on started to branch out into sheep and cattle ranching.
Because I know I had a garden when I first moved here, and the soil is very tough to grow.
I bet.
So imagine coming from Germany, it's a whole brand new ballgame to learn how to grow things in Nevada.
Yeah, and one of the ways that he became successful was recognizing the importance of the water source, the Carson River, and that he needed to get that water to his land if he was ever going to grow anything. And he and his family are responsible for many of the important irrigation canals and ditches in Carson Valley. His obituary in 1904 was headlined, "He has dug his last ditch."
Well, actually, I've taken some balloon rides and done some aerial things. And when you're above Carson Valley, you see ditches everywhere. It's amazing the amount of, and he was involved with a lot of those ditches. I never knew that.
Yes, he was.
Well, the next picture is more of a, I think it's a modern.
Well, the next photo shows the house as we found it in 2005 when Nevada State Parks took over management of the property, and you can see it's pretty well run down, needs a new roof, new paint. It had been vacant for about 10 years at the time of this photograph. The last member of the Dangberg family who lived at the ranch passed away in 1995.
Wow.
And so the house was essentially vacant between 1995 and 2005. During that time, an agreement was worked out with the landowners who did own the land at that time and some of the family members, Douglas County and Nevada State Parks, and they worked out an agreement in which Douglas County acquired ownership of 5.5 acres of land, and Nevada State Parks agreed to manage the property in collaboration with Douglas County.
Excellent. So the one following this is the picture where the work is done, I think.
Yeah, well, the next picture is from just last summer in 2008. That shows that it's all been repainted. There's the new roof. You notice I think you can see it in the photograph that there's a railing along the top of the front porch there that's been restored, and windows and screens and electrical was all taken care of.
It's absolutely beautiful.
Well, of course, that's only one. That is the main house. It's about 15 rooms, and it's the central feature of the property. But there are 5 other buildings on the site that are part of the original ranch compound. Let's see, I think our next photograph shows one of those buildings. This is the stone cellar right behind the house. It's the stone from this was quarried in the prison quarry here in Carson City, and that's also been restored with a new roof and a replacement bell tower in the back of the photograph. And that was built around 1880 and was used for food production and storage for everyone who lived and worked on the ranch. They would butcher the cattle that the family ate, as well as what they fed to their hands, and store their produce and produce cream from the fresh milk from the dairy cows.
So it's
And that
kind
all
of like their fridge.
Yes, exactly, and it is very cold in there. There is actually a cooling system built into the structure where they can allow, through holes in the walls, allow cold air to come in at night, and then during the day they close those holes off, and the building stays cool all day long.
I like that. This is really a silly question, but the bells are bringing the field help probably.
Yeah, we're told that bell would be rung quite early in the morning to awake the hands from their rest and to go into the house and have breakfast.
Well, that's a dual purpose.
Yes.
So every time you hear the bell, it's like Pavlov's dog. It's food.
Probably.
Get up for breakfast, come in for dinner.
Yes, exactly.
Excellent.
Also on the site, there's a laundry building, there's a bunkhouse, there's a carriage house, there's a garage, and then surrounding the actual park property are other buildings that were part of the Dangberg operation: a large barn, the remnants of a slaughterhouse and a hide house, and a little cook's house. Those aren't part of the modern park, but they're part of the setting.
Well, it sounds like it's a pretty nice place.
It's a great place to work.
Yeah, from what I saw from the outside, it's a nice place, but it's sounding bigger by the second.
Mm-hmm. Well, one time the house was the most prominent house in Carson Valley. Everyone would have known where the home ranch was.
Excellent. And then you're going to give us the next shot was about.
Well, this next photo shows H.F. Dangberg Senior. He served in the Nevada State Legislature for several terms, and this photograph is probably from the 1870s. We do have this photograph in our collection. We also have a pencil sketch of Mr. Dangberg from his service in the legislature that hangs in our living room as part of the tour.
Excellent.
We can see the next photograph is his wife. Mr. Dangberg had been in Carson Valley for about 7 years when he met this woman, Margaret Gail Ferris Dangberg. Of course, Dangberg wasn't her name then. And Maggie, as she was called, she immigrated to Carson Valley with her parents and her siblings. And one of those siblings was the inventor of the Ferris wheel, George Washington Gale Ferris Jr.
Excellent.
One of the nice things we have in our living room at the ranch are portraits painted in 1890 of Maggie's parents, George Washington Ferris Senior and Martha Hyde Ferris. And I think our next photograph shows the oldest item in our collection. It is a painting of two pears on a piece of cloth that was painted by Maggie's grandmother in 1820. And we found it with a little note from Maggie that said, "My mother's mother painted this."
Wow.
And so 1820 is the deduction based on what we know of the family genealogy. And as I said, it is the oldest thing in our collection, but we also have items that date all the way up into the 1990s when the last of the Dangbergs lived there.
Excellent.
The next photograph shows is an example of one of the artifacts we have in our collection. It's a book, a hardbound book, and there's an inscription on the front. It says, "To Maggie, Merry Christmas, your cousin Sabra," and it's dated Christmas 1876. And as I said, Maggie was Maggie Dangberg, H.F. Senior's wife, and her cousin Sabra was actually her uncle's wife. And the next photograph shows is a photo of Sabra and her family from about that time. And I selected this for today because we have a large collection of photographs from the Ferris family in our collection. There's photos of the cousins and aunts and uncles, and probably 50 or 60 of them, some of them from the 1860s through the 1880s. And there's a strong connection with a town in Illinois, Galesburg, Illinois, that the Ferris family helped found. And so I think that the town of Galesburg would probably be very jealous of our collection because it shows a lot of the notables that were responsible with the development of Galesburg.
Well, I love all these old pictures. And how many books does this collection have, by the way, just for curiosity? I saw some of the old pictures, and there's a lot of books everywhere.
Our oldest book is from 1843, and then we have books all the way through about 1990, and there's around 1,500 books.
Well, one of my favorite things to do from people's collections, including my grandfather, who had a PhD, was go through the old books, and especially the old history books, of checking out what their view of history was in like 1920. And it's a great read. I always got a kick out of it. And it sounds like the museum tour is going to be something good to see. We're going to have to take a short break soon, and when we come back, we'll talk about more of the Dangberg Ranch.
What lies beyond the curve in the trail? What secrets are there? My feet carry me into its veiled mystery, and I want to taste the sweet air and hear the song bestowed by nature. Just this once. Until the next curve, the next trail, the next walk through the Carson Valley. The Genoa Foothill Trail System will connect the Carson Valley with the Tahoe Rim Trail, providing a wonderful trail system near the oldest town in Nevada. This is just one of many projects the Carson Valley Trails Association is working on for our communities, but we cannot do it alone. Please contact us by visiting our website and find out about becoming a member or signing up to help build our community trails. We're looking forward to seeing you out in the most beautiful land Nevada has to offer.
Hi, I'm Fish and Game Warden Patrick Foy. Boaters at Lake Tahoe should expect watercraft inspections at all launch sites around the lake. These inspections are designed to prevent the destructive spread of zebra and quagga mussels, as well as other aquatic invasive species. If brought into Lake Tahoe, invasive species will damage boats and the pristine waters and be impossible to remove. Remember to clean, drain, and dry your boat every time before entering a new body of water. Clean boats stop aquatic hitchhikers.
Hi, we're back from break, and Mark's going to tell us a little bit more of the interior of the ranch. I have one question. I've toured a lot of museums in my life because I just absolutely love them. I mean, and worldwide. And one thing I've talked to curators and things, and they said that sometimes they spend the night there. Have you done that?
No, no.
You haven't had a feel of the night in the museum?
No, I can't imagine it would be very comfortable. There's no heating system. There's no plumbing. There's no running water, and there are stories that there are ghosts. Though I've personally never experienced one, but some of the other people who have spent some time around the ranch swear that there are ghosts.
Well, then we won't do any night tours then.
No.
We'll save the tours for the daytime. And since when the show's airing, we should be open.
Uh-huh.
And so when should I pre-call to get an appointment to go there? If I have a group of people, or can I just show up?
All of our tours are scheduled, and so anyone who comes needs a reservation. We're a young park, and so we're still developing some of our outside programs. Right now we're focused on our tours as well as several exhibits that we'll be giving throughout the year. But to take a tour, they need to call us and make a reservation.
Well, go ahead and give out the number and the website.
The phone number to call is 775-783-9417. And we do have an informational website at parks.nv.gov/hr.htm.
Wow. And some of these, on the website, you have the special events.
Uh-huh.
So, because you said that some of the things you put out just for the special events.
Uh-huh. Certainly. We're going to have around 4 exhibits this year where we'll get out some of the artifacts that we don't normally have on display. For instance, in the fall, we'll repeat our clothing exhibit where we'll show some items of clothing. I think we have some photographs of those. And then at the end of the year, we have a holiday and toy exhibit. Earlier this year, we'll have a book exhibit and an exhibit on Carson Valley history.
Excellent. So how do you exhibit all these items?
We place them in the various rooms of the house, not necessarily in a natural way as the Dangbergs might have had them. That's what we do for our normal tours. But we try to, I'm the park interpreter, so we want to interpret these things. We want to tell people what their significance is and how they fit into the history of the Dangberg family, of Carson Valley, and of Nevadans everywhere.
So if I bring like 5 truckloads of kids, I should time it for the toy exhibit.
5 truckloads of kids are welcome to come to our park.
But not exactly at the toy exhibit.
Children 12 years and under get in for free.
Okay. Excellent. Well, I've seen some of the pictures, and some of those toys were pretty cool back then.
We have the first game that Milton Bradley produced in 1870, the checkered game of life.
Excellent. And you're going to show me some more pictures of the interior.
Well, yes, when we have our tours, we start in the living room. That's what we're looking at now. And this is a photograph that was taken during our clothing exhibit. The pink gown in the background was worn by Gertrude Dangberg, the wife of H.F. Dangberg Jr. This was worn in 1903 when she would go with her husband to legislative social functions. He, like his father, H.F. Jr., the oldest of the first generation of Dangberg children, he served a term in the state legislature.
Excellent. So this is where they go out in the town.
And the living room features a genuine Persian rug from about 1930 that we think was custom made for the room, several nice paintings, and a 1916 William Knob and Company grand piano that Gertrude Dangberg played very well, I'm told.
Excellent. Now the furniture, was this one of the museums that was furnished from Europe, or was it a lot of American made, as it were?
We're still researching the history of our furniture. Everything that you see when you come to the home ranch is original to the site. We didn't have to bring anything in, which is something that our site has that a lot of other historic sites can't claim. And so we do have a lot of late 19th century furniture, but we're still researching the provenance.
Excellent.
The next photo shows another room in the house. This is the kitchen in the main house. Through the doorway in the back, you see the men's dining room. It was a separate dining room for the ranch workers to eat in that was separate from the family dining room. The family employed a cook there. and up until the 1930s, who would cook for both the family and for all of the ranch workers. He would cook
Wow.
6 meals a day in this kitchen. The stove you see was originally a wood-burning stove, but then later on in the 20th century, it was converted to oil like the other heating stoves in the house.
Well, it's a pretty big place.
It is a big place. That's why the tour takes about an hour to an hour and a half.
So go ahead and plan on an hour and a half.
Oh, certainly, certainly. And then there's the grounds that visitors can roam around and look at some of the architecture. We have a lot of birds frequent the area, like much of the Carson Valley. And it's just a wonderful site to come spend a few hours at.
Well, like I said, I thought it's beautiful, and you're surrounded by the mountains as well. And you're going to show more of the inside?
Well, there is two more photos here. This one is of one of the bedrooms in the house. This room also features a Persian rug. This rug is lamb's wool from about 1920. And it shows some of the nice furniture we have in the house. In the back corner, you see a Haywood Wakefield wicker desk. And this was the last person to use this as a bedroom was Ruth Dangberg. She and her sister Margaret were the two last full-time residents of the ranch, and they passed away in the late 1980s.
Well, it's hard to believe how big this place is.
It's a large property. The next photo shows one of the other buildings on the site, the inside. This is the inside of the laundry house, which sits behind the main house. And the family employed a Washoe Indian woman to come do the family's laundry, as well as laundry for the ranch workers who lived there at the home ranch. And they employed someone to come do that for them up until the 1940s.
About how many employees do they have doing laundry? I mean, who needed laundry done?
My understanding is that it was just one laundress, and she would also help with household chores.
I meant all the number of workers.
Oh, they didn't have a huge amount of men living on the ranch. On that ranch, they had several other ranches in the valley, and some of those had more ranch workers living on site. There at the home ranch, they probably had less than a dozen at any time.
I saw one picture with a giant haystack, and it looked like there's about 4 guys, and it looked like they're getting dirty. And I know when I was working the ranch, I got dirty, and I just pictured one gal with a dozen guys cleaning up all that dirt. It's a lot of work.
Well, the home ranch was the first ranch that Dangberg established, but then his children, and we can see in the next photograph, I believe, shows that shows the family of Henry Fred Dangberg Jr., the oldest son of H.F. Senior and Maggie. And this shows his wife, Gertrude, and their 4 daughters, Margaret, Ruth, Fritzie, and Katrina. And those of us who work at the ranch have a fondness for those 4 daughters because their presence and their lives are very evident throughout the house. Many of the possessions that we have stem from the lives of these 4 women, and they have very fascinating stories that when people come on the tour, I talk a lot about.
So their passion came through as human beings, and that's what you feel when you're there.
They all of them have stories of accomplishment, and all of them have stories of sadness and tragedy.
Oh, wow.
H.F. Jr. and Gertrude, as I said, they had these 4 daughters, but they also had a son who was the oldest. And this photo shows Gertrude with that son. His name was Dwight. And this photo is taken at the home ranch. It's a beautiful photograph I love showing of a mother with her newborn child. And she's bathing him, of course. But the sad thing about Dwight is that he passed away of scarlet fever in 1905 at the age of 5 years old. And there was an epidemic of scarlet fever in Carson Valley.
Wow.
We have a news clipping from the Record Courier at the time that talks about the epidemic and how something has to be done. All these children are dying. But when Dwight passed away, his parents asked Uncle George, H.F. Jr.'s youngest brother, to pack away Dwight's possessions in a trunk, and because they were grief-stricken and didn't want to cope with it, is my guess. And 100 years after George did that, we found the trunk. It had never been opened. We found it in one of the attics and opened it up, and found it full of Dwight's possessions from 1905. There were about 100 items. There was a little tin horn. There was a baby doll and a Washoe Indian woven cradle board, a piggy bank with lots of coins in it, and there were 5 pairs of denim bib overalls, 3 of which were Levi's, and the Levi Strauss Museum has told us that they are the oldest Levi's known to exist in the state of Nevada, and there you can see a photograph of those. They're patched and worn, and we have a photograph of Dwight wearing them, and there he is, out in front of the home ranch, and we even have the shirt that he's wearing in that photograph was found in the trunk.
So the family was so grief-stricken they didn't open this trunk for 100 years?
Correct. They
Wow.
put those possessions away and just kind of forgot that it happened, it seemed.
Is he buried on the site?
Most of this family is buried in the Lone Mountain Cemetery in Carson City. No one is buried on site. Some of the extended family members are buried in Genoa and in Gardnerville.
So that just shows that no one's immune to illness.
Correct. And there are other stories of deaths in the family that I tell on the tour.
My grandfather's dad was a doctor, and back then they went house to house, and we have a lot of stories of things like that as well. It's really just tears you up. And you're going to go on to the next part of the
tour? Well, the next
tour?
photograph shows an early photo of Gertrude, and one of the fascinating things about the home ranch and our collection is the connection between the individuals, their lives, the things that happen to them, the photographs we have of them, and their possessions. And the connections between all of those different aspects helps us tell the story of the Dangberg family and of what life was like in Nevada and Carson Valley beginning in the 19th century up until 1990. Now this photograph shows Gertrude, H.F. Jr.'s wife, around 1898, and she's wearing this dress. We have this photo in our collection, and we know the dress is green because we also have the dress in our collection. And here's the dress. When we took the photograph of this dress, we didn't realize that the bow went in the back. We need to rephotograph it. But Gertrude held on to this dress as a cherished possession. She was trained to be a teacher, and perhaps this was from one of her graduations. And we have photographs of her wearing this dress as well in the 1920s, and of her daughter, Katrina, wearing this dress as well.
It's a pretty nice dress.
When we have it, when we have our clothing exhibit, we do display this and other dresses.
Excellent. Well, the probably clothing display is probably pretty popular.
It was. We have evening gowns from the 1930s. We have the Levi's. We have suits. We have hats. We have gloves. Anyone who loves the history of clothing would have a very good time at our exhibit.
So what part of the year is the clothing exhibit?
We have that over Nevada Day weekend.
Excellent. Well, I personally like that type of things myself, so I'll probably shoot out there for it. Maybe that's when we'll bring our picture to your site, our cameras.
That would be great.
Excellent.
I think the next photograph shows another one of the artifacts we have in the collection. This is Gertrude's wedding dress. She married H.F. Jr. In 1898, and you can see on the floor there next to them are the shoes from the wedding dress. And we know this is a wedding dress. There was a little piece of paper with it. It was found packed in tissue in a garment box, and the paper said, "This is Mother's wedding dress."
Well, we have to wrap up the show, but it sounds like whoever did this in the family was pretty good at keeping things intact for y'all. So it's not a terrible thing to set up the museum. Last 45 seconds, give us your website again so people can track down the location and get reservations.
It's at the Nevada State Parks website, parks.nv.gov/hr.htm.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for being on the show, and I'm gonna go there. I just love history of Nevada, and it's a beautiful house and a beautiful area, and thank you for being on Nevada Trails. I appreciate it. It's been Michael Smith for Nevada Trails. Thank you.